Awesome.
It's Mr. Farid Mohsini, the week after the promotion to org consultant Farid. So let's just touch upon that. We were talking before I hit the record button, but why don't you just share your thoughts and what you were thinking on stage? I have just one big question that I'll follow up with, but let's just start with how you felt.
So in interest of full disclosure, I hit it in August of last year. So I hit it on the week of NACON. Obviously, I didn't get promoted there because it was too late of a notice. So in my mind, I was already a consultant for almost a year. And just official promotion, being on stage was in keys. So how did I feel? I don't really know because I feel like it had already settled in. It's almost like, you graduated, but you walk a month after.
Right.
So it felt good. It was good to get it out of the way. But yeah, it's the responsibilities and everything of the OC. I think I was already doing it almost a year before the title maybe got attached to it, right? So a lot like ownership.
Mhm. But being recognized, having 1,000 people there to celebrate you and your walk-up song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I uh I don't know what it is about me. I'm an introvert, so being I'm not anti being celebrated by all means, but I don't necessarily need I don't run off of that, right? So there are some people that just operate with um where, hey, if you don't mention my name or applaud, yeah, I'm okay with that. So how for me it's a little bit more stressful being part of the on the spotlight rather than rather than not. So um yeah, I don't know if that answered your question. I'm glad that we got celebrated. I'm not anti-celebration, but I don't, I guess, necessarily run off of that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I'd much prefer being the guy giving out the award than the guy receiving the
100%.
award. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
Um, but just I want to reference one piece of the speech, and as you know, sitting right front and center there, recording your speech, and there were, even at the table I was with, you know, a bunch of Christian guys were sitting at the table with me. And we could even tell by the applause that you got. I mean, you really started off thanking right off the bat your
Yeah.
Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You
Yeah.
know, he protects me, he corrects me, and he directs me. And
Yeah.
just real interesting way to start your speech off, and some very teary eyes, at least at my table. But you want to just touch upon that real quick?
Yeah. Yeah. My faith is not a concept, right? It's a reality. So I'm under no illusion that a lot of the results that I get, Christ literally says, right, in Proverbs, a man, plans his steps, but God directs the way. So it would be absolutely hypocritical for me to just take the applause, take the celebration, and end it there. I think a lot of this is handed down to us, and we have to recognize that. So, and I think recognizing that makes you maintain a certain level of humility because I don't think I'm necessarily God's gift to humanity, right? I'm just my central message in part two was literally, hey, I'm just an ordinary guy with no plan B, right? So I think recognizing that on the front end makes you also maintain a certain level of humility that I'm nothing special. It's just this was handed to me, and then I have to recognize it too. Did I have a responsibility and an accountability to be a faithful steward through all of it? I believe so. Yes, I do think work ethic matters. I do think personal development matters. But at the same time, I know that I can do all those things and it still does not guarantee results, right? So that's why I started the speech the way I started. You know, I have to recognize that first and foremost.
Yeah. And how big of a, how important is that piece of, of your life, your faith? I mean, how important is that with your business? I mean, I've heard some people say I could have never succeeded without God. I've heard other people that, aren't as spiritual that have been very successful that, they like, listen, I had to persevere. It was all, it was me and my
Yeah,
attitude and things like that. So I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on your faith with, marriage and business,
yeah.
fatherhood.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when the times are good, most people um, will act like God's not needed, but you'll be amazed how quickly people turn to prayer when things go south, right? It's almost like nobody believes in God until there's an accident and you're looking for a miracle, you know? Um, but I recognize that beforehand, right? So it's how much does my faith have to do with my marriage? Everything, right? What's the standard operating procedure for marriage? It's all written in the book, it's all written in the Bible. So and business is the way I think about my business, it's just my ministry, right? Part of it is me getting to develop the people that come in my path, and do I get a chance to talk about God and my faith in the midst of it? You my team can probably testify. I think one out of my every five morning meetings has a parable attached to it, a proverb attached to it, a psalm attached to it. But yeah, I think it's got everything. It's not my spiritual life and then my business life and then my marriage. I think it's just life, and he's the creator of it. And he has written out how it's all done.
Yeah. Great.
Adequately saying 100% confirmed. He
Yeah.
has,
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I recall too on the last call we had with you, similar, we went down a similar path, just really talking about your faith, how important it is. And it's clear God has blessed you with with health, with a terrific marriage. I mean, Cherie is a fantastic wife and very supportive and a beautiful child and a very successful business. And extremely talented people that you're surrounded with. So it just seems clear to me that you're
yeah,
blessed.
I agree.
Yeah.
I, and it's
Uh,
that, and that's, I don't think that's because I have faith, right? I mean, there are people that are denying his existence, that he has been blessed. So that probably tells you more about how good God is rather than, how good we are, right? Um, because I don't think I'm blessed just because of my performance, right?
mhm.
I don't think it's strictly because of who he is.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just heard this morning we've got a new government in Syria, and this new government, I don't even know the guy's name, but he's a known terrorist who now leads the country, and he's persecuted 1,300 Christians, so here's people that have the same faith you do, that
Yeah,
it cost them their life. They're not receiving promotions and accolades, and they're not
100%. Yeah.
not living the Vita Loca the way you are. So yeah,
Yeah.
blessings aren't a guarantee of the Christian walk, are they?
No, no, they're not.
Yeah. At least not on earth. Heaven's a different story.
What's the verse? Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but those that follow me aren't guaranteed a place to lay their head.
Right. All right. Well, we'll see what kind of comments come from this first portion of this conversation here, Farid. But I mean, I could talk for hours about faith and the importance of it, and I appreciate you. I love you as a brother, and it brought tears to my eyes to hear that speech for sure.
Oh, awesome.
But just to shift gears, I was asking you, okay, so obviously there's a lot of turbulence on the road to consultant. Just like there's turbulence on the road to become an owner, but then, okay, you become an owner. Well, to be able to duplicate yourself 9+ times over and to promote successful owners, I mean, obviously there's got to be, several ups and downs. I asked you, your biggest struggles, and your first answer was intentionality in recruiting, not understanding who the right candidates were. So you want to touch on that, like just
Yeah.
what were you doing wrong, if you want to call it wrong, or maybe it wasn't just wrong. It's just like, hey, I was inexperienced. I didn't know. Then I got some clarity, but just kind of walk through that whole recruiting piece with intentionality.
Yeah. I think at the beginning, when you are not too clear about this, every person that seems like they can sell is a sharp candidate. Um, and that was certainly my case, right? Anybody that I thought was, good looking that could sell is a sharp candidate in my book. Eventually that shifted in my journey to where it was, you have to be able to sell. I need to still see you perform at a high level, but I also need to trust you. And when you start looking for people that I need to be able to trust you, that shifts the focus a little bit. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's something that you pick up right out the get-go in the interview, meaning you pick up whether somebody is trustworthy in the first and second round or in 3 rounds of interview process. But I think you start to pay attention to that earlier on in a rep's life to figure out, do I want to put my time and attention and energy into this person to possibly make him a partner of mine in the future? So trust starts to play a huge role. At the beginning, I didn't understand that, so I just thought that every high performer was going to be a good business guy. And Jamie, you can probably speak more into this than I can, but there's been a lot of high performers that have become business guys that are no longer in the business because they were very low trust people, not trustworthy individuals, right? Still insane performers. It's just low integrity, no character, and those guys can be trusted. So now the way I think about it is, if you are overseeing a team of 10 people, that's 30 meals a day that you're in charge of. And that's a pretty big responsibility. And if those 10 people are married, that's 60 meals a day, right? So it's a pretty big responsibility. And I think uh, trustworthiness has to be questioned a little bit more. So I think that's one of the things that I changed in my game, because at the beginning I think I tried to make a few other people partners that I was working with the wrong people. It was the minute I figured out that trustworthiness or character matters far more,
Mm.
because performance can be taught, right? Character, unfortunately, I can't teach character.
Yeah, and I always caution people because I mean, if you ask most owners that are successful, they'll say, like, hey, what are the characteristics you're looking for in, your people? And character comes up a lot. Um, but I don't know about you, I'm curious your take, but this is my take. Hey, I'm really slow to size up somebody's character. Like, I don't want to be quick to judge, right? And even when I think back to me and who I was at the very beginning, I mean, I didn't have such strong character. I had a lot of growing up to do. So
Yeah,
is kind of your thought process, listen, I'm hiring people. I'm quick to hire. I'll give people the benefit of the doubt. But then as time goes on, I'm sizing up the character and hey,
yeah.
if they're not checking that box, they're out.
Not necessarily they're out. It's just the concept where you say 80% of your time spent on 20% of the people. And I think that 20% of the people are the ones that you do end up working into ownership. So that is what I mean. They can still stay in the business. It's just they're not gonna get my attention as much. So I'm not necessarily going to try to fire people, but you got to be selfless. That's number one. Our business requires you to be a people person, so you can't work around that. So if somebody is intrinsically selfish, I don't really, let's just say intrinsically selfish, but insanely good performer, on the sales side, that's not my guy, right? That can be my guy in the field, and I can use him as an example of what it means to have high standards in sales, but I'm not using that guy as a model citizen. I'm not
Mm,
necessarily, matter of fact, we currently in our location, we currently have a guy like that, in 333, where great performance week in, week out, just not a people person,
mm,
right? So I think, can I teach somebody how to become selfless? No, but I do agree with you. I don't judge it out at the get-go. I think that displays itself, you know, between 1 to 3 months,
right.
right? Humility. I prefer. I do want confidence. I don't want arrogance, right? Arrogance just drives people away. Confidence lifts other people up, right? I want to be confident to where you can come to me and gain a little bit of strength if on the day that you need it. But arrogance is, puts other people down. It never lifts or empowers other people. So that's another character thing that I look at. And there's a
Mm,
fine line between, you know, being very confident and being arrogant. But I'm not a fan of arrogance at all.
yeah. Yeah, the way I've always articulated it, obviously we want people that are confident, right? Confidence, character, we want all that. I want somebody with humble swag, somebody who's
Yeah,
confident in themselves, but doesn't feel the need to have to tell everybody how great they are, right? And
yeah,
that would be arrogance. Like you got to tell the world how awesome you are, but it's like, no, somebody with humble swag, they don't need to tell anybody how great they are. They'll show you with their
yeah,
results, who they really are.
exactly.
Um, the other thing that comes to mind too when you're talking about this is, charisma opens doors, right? Like somebody gets on your radar with great salesmanship. So charisma is going to open doors, but your character keeps you in the door,
Yeah,
right? So that keeps you in the pocket where a guy like Farid is going to recognize you, put the time into you, and then,
yeah,
open you up into business for yourself. You'd agree with that?
yeah, 100%. And
Okay.
then the last thing that I look at is stability, right? I have before it's just, you deal with people and it's like one drama after another. And like, is there ever a 3 months period in your life where it's like stable? Like you're not dealing with, you had an issue with this person and that person and this person. Well, you're the common denominator, right? So that drama free people. Um, I love them. I I want them in my business, as many as possible. They are a joy to work with. There are the other ones. It's just like you're constantly coming, and you have to have a ton of energy because they're gonna suck it right out of you, right? So um, anyway, those are just some of the things that I talk about when I say I need high trust people.
Mhm.
Um, because if somebody's a high performer but always drama, it's just we know how that ends up.
Right. Yeah, the drama never ends, does it?
Yeah,
Right. It's just, more money, just more problems, but the drama won't end.
yeah. So
Um,
yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that I've had to shift in my perspective. Second thing that I'll say is this, and I know we probably want to move on, but after you do your first promotion, I say this now, and I believe it with all my heart. I think 90% you're a consultant after your first one. I think you get the confidence that this is not that hard. I think you start to see a little bit more clearer vision that, and there's a belief that I think you come to realize to be true is that nobody is irreplaceable because you just let your top guy open up his office, and 4 weeks later you're okay. You realize that, oh, nobody's irreplaceable. Everyone can be replaced. You know, I just opened up Roman. Roman is doing great. $40,000 wires. It's his sixth wire this week. It was 40,000. I don't know, Jamie, if anybody else has done that, but in my office, he was doing amazing. And my wire this week was 26,000. But nobody is replaceable, right? So everybody comes back from pain.
Hmm. That's amazing. I mean, so Roman's been an owner for 6 weeks. This is his sixth uh,
Six wire.
wire, and his wire was $40,000.
Yep.
That's pretty sick.
I know. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It's almost $20,000 in net profit. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. I mean, as much as I want to celebrate that, part of me is gets a little fearful when I hear that because, like, dude, that's not the business. The business is grind and struggle and get punched and punched and punched.
Yeah.
And then in the 11th and 12th round, you're going to come out like, okay, you're
Yeah.
dancing.
Yeah.
At least that's my story. But I wasn't slinging 40K wires, for a
Yeah.
long time.
I 100% agree. Yeah. I was happy for him, but I was like, hey, please let's talk about finances and investments and
Yeah.
because, 40 in the wrong hands is a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, if it's okay with you, I'm going to call him right after this call and let him know that the forecast calls for pain. Is that okay with you?
Do
Yeah.
it.
You pay your dues sometime. Like there is no up,
Yeah.
up, up. It's the forecast calls for pain. So I'm gonna give him a call right after this, Fareed. I appreciate you
Yeah.
cutting me off.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I'll do it at 4 p.m. because 3 o'clock is Sab's, 3 to 4 is Sab's. So,
okay, four
oh,
o'clock. You'll know exactly what's happening then at 4 o'clock.
yeah.
The other piece, just I want you to touch on, and maybe you already have touched on it. The other struggle or challenge on the road to consultant was holding on to the wrong people for too long. And I think you kind of did touch upon this instead
Yeah.
of cutting and replacing. So you said that, everybody's replaceable, but um, I mean, how do you define the wrong people? I mean, is it all character? Are there other things you're looking for?
Yeah. Yeah. To answer the question, I'll actually tell you the real life story. Right after COVID, we all came back. None of us were in fighting shape, right? I came back with 4 people. Um, and my top guy, his name, I'm not gonna mention it, but a lot of everyone in my org knew his name, right? Just constantly setting the pace. Probably the best sales guy in the 333 location. But he was, depending on the day, you would know what kind of attitude he's gonna show up. Sometimes negative, which was borderline toxic. And at the beginning, before COVID, the office was big, so he was just a high performer, but he was the attitude issues were a little bit more hidden. After he came back, he was, still the same guy, just but he called me, he's like, I don't know what's happening. I feel that
That's controllable right there. I like that. Oh wait, that's right. It's been on for this whole time.
adequately. I
Hey
don't know
miss,
what
how you doing?
you're saying.
Miss.
I
Jamie,
just
I don't know if
muted
you
him.
want to mute him, but
I just hit him. So
thank you.
back to you.
He called me and I kind of walked him out. I told him I think your time is done. And this was my best guy. Brought me down to 3 people. I just got rid of 25% of my office. And that was my best guy, right? Um, and I think some people would have been fearful to make that decision because they're like, oh, I can't get rid of my best guy when I have 4 people. But I knew what it was going to be to, rebuild, and him being 25% of my office and showing up that way, it wasn't going to happen. So walked him out. And so holding on to the people like that eventually hurts the business far more than it helps. And I understand it, right? As business owners, we think cash in the bank is king, which is cash in the bank is security for sure. I'm not fighting that at all. It's just one guy doing well. does not replace 4 people that could be doing better in his absence. So in my books, that's a very, very quick exchange.
Mm. It takes a lot of guts when you're, you've got 4 reps in your office and you cut 25% and the guy's a great producer. I mean, a lot of people don't do that.
No, no, no.
But yeah, you hear the stories all the time of, you know, whether it's a guy like Eric Chapman or somebody who's like, you're a rep, your eyes are wide open, you see things happening in an office, and when if an owner is tolerating bad behavior, then that rep is like, yeah, this isn't my place. I don't belong here. This isn't
Yeah,
how I was raised. Versus you see the owner making a cut, a drastic cut, and you're kind of like, whoa, this owner does not tolerate poor character. I do belong here. These are my kind of people. And I've just heard that story so many times of people that were turned on to the business because
yeah,
the owner did, part ways with just somebody who didn't fit into that mold of character that it takes to really lead.
yeah, yeah. 100%. I agree. Yeah, it's true. Getting rid of the book that Sitcor gave all of us, Energy Bus. I'm sure everybody has read it. Getting rid of the wrong people on the bus makes the makes the bus better for sure.
Mm, yeah. All right, Farid. Well, we appreciate you. It was fun celebrating you in Houston for sure. And I look forward to R&R. We're gonna have to do something extra special in R&R for you. So I'm certainly looking forward to that little rendezvous in Mexico.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Jamie.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Talk to
guys.
you soon.
Bye.
You guys.